Hi, guys. It's Colleen from the Good Wives Guide to True Crime and Murder by Design. And today we have a special guest. Just to let you guys know, Fancy is feeling under the weather, so she's not going to be joining us tonight. But I do have a special guest who's here with us tonight. And I hope that you all remember her. But in case you don't, Leigh, can you tell our listeners who you are?
Hi, guys. Yes, my name is Leigh Egan, and I am an investigative journalist for Nancy Grace and Crime Online.
So we talked to you before, I believe, before you did the interview with Letecia Stauch.
You know what?
I've had, right before or so right after?
It could be like right after the last one I had with her, but I mean, I've spoken to her a handful of times, so I'm not really sure. I know that I know we spoke about that was right after she did her alleged jailbreak, if that helps.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
This crazy pants.
But she's back in El Paso County Jail, as far as I know. She's still there and getting a second psychological evaluation.
Another one?
Yeah, she was deemed competent to stand trial. And then her defense team said, no, wait a minute. We want to, and not only do we want another one, we want a longer one. They wanted double time. So we're at the waiting game at this point. Hopefully we'll hear something soon and the process will get rolling, but the trial probably won't be until 2021.
Right. And that's I think they will probably have enough evidence. It's just waiting for her defense to try to pull out every ploy they can beforehand.
Right. Going by the complaint I read, they have a ton of evidence. Now, of course, Letecia still says every time I speak to her, she maintains her innocence. She told me that actually her former husband, Al Stauch, and his friend, Edgar or Eduardo, they're kind of interchangeable names, that they are the true suspects and that Eduardo kidnapped Gannon because Al owed him money and that he was on a train with Gannon on the 27th when they were at the house searching for him.
Right. So I had read that in your September 3rd article.
Yes.
And she had so many different stories about who did it. So before we go into each of her theories, does she seem sane now? Or is she...
She does to me. I mean, when I speak to her, she seems... I don't know if she's convinced herself of it, or I really don't. I can't, speculate. But in my opinion, she seems sane. She absolutely does.
I don't think she was, insane at the time of the crime either. I think this is just what she's trying. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're insane, you usually don't run and hide.
Right. You don't then dispose of the body, weeks later. You don't just get your daughter to buy the supplies to help clean it up.
Right. I mean, like I said, that's part of the evidence. They've got a lot of stuff there. Her defense team has a lot stacked up against them.
Right.
A lot.
So in the claims that she's made, both to the media and the police, she has said, told different stories to her husband as well, saying that, the guy named Eduardo, who she hired to clean the carpet in her home, sexually assaulted her before abducting Gannon. She told Al that a convicted sex offender, Quincy Brown, raped her before abducting Gannon. She said that Quincy Brown stopped her while she was driving by, lying down in the street. And that when she stopped the car, she said Brown jumped in the vehicle and forced her to drive home where he raped her.
Right. And then the other one was when he was driving the car, Gannon was on the bike. Yeah. Gannon was on the bike and hit Gannon, or Gannon hit his head. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, he fell off his bike, hit his head.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
And claimed a man named Terrence was in the car with Brown. There's only so many stories you can tell anybody before it's completely like you stick to one story.
And is it that she has some kind of clever plan that, I'm going to tell all these stories until they think I'm crazy? I don't know.
I mean, I think the issue with that is that you can tell, a different story every single day, but that's not what determines somebody's mental competence.
That's exactly right. Absolutely.
Like being a nurse, it's not about what my patient tells me how many drinks they had. It's what does the evidence show? What do their labs show?
Exactly. That's
Like
exactly right.
it's
But does
looking
she,
at the science and looking at, the facts.
and does she know that? I don't know. I think at this point, I mean, she has nothing to lose. I'm sure you've read the complaint. You see all that stuff in
Yeah.
there. She's read it too. She has the autopsy reports. I mean, she has nothing to lose at this point.
Right. So I mean, what, she tried to break out of jail twice?
I know it was, well,
Just one, or
that I know of.
plotting.
I mean, she could
Plotting.
have, right. It was the last time I spoke with you guys, that's the only time I
Yeah.
know of so far. I haven't heard of anything else. Let me know if you hear anything.
I'm sure you will know more than me. So I told our viewers this afternoon, when I went live for my tidbit, that we were going to have some major exciting news, but we're going to wait until Fancy is back to go through it. So tune in on Monday, guys, to hear that. Wanted to slip that in there. And then there are two other cases that I wanted to talk to you about. The first
Sure.
was stuff that came out today, that earlier this month, we found out Scott Peterson's murder, or his death penalty sentence was overturned.
Right.
But today it came out that now they're considering reviewing his guilty verdict, and then would have to do a new trial. Which on our team, we're in our we literally have one episode left of our Scott Peterson series, where Fancy and I went head to head because I think he's innocent, she thinks he's guilty.
Oh, I didn't know you guys did that. You're gonna have to link me to that. I'd love to hear that.
Yes, it's on our website, but we will send it over to you.
Okay.
Because she talked to Joseph Scott Morgan, and then another one, a psychologist who talked about spousal killers in general. So she went a lot on like theory based, whereas my side, so I talked with Kirk Nurmi, Jodi Arias' defense attorney. And so I look at more of the actual facts of the case and why I think he's innocent. And I know Nancy would probably want to slap me for saying that I think he's innocent.
Oh no, you know what? She went, she allowed Scott's, I don't know who this lady is, his sister-in-law, his aunt.
Sister-in-law, I think.
Okay, yeah. She came on the show when she was with Dan Abrams on the Dan Abrams show. And they talked. I mean, she they kind of course they had nothing. There was nothing that they agreed on, but she had no problem with listening to her. She just didn't agree with her.
Well, right. And like for me, obviously, I'm younger, so I wasn't around when I was a kid when the actual case was happening,
right?
And so I've only learned about it several years ago, and just this is the only case in anything that we have covered where I believe that the defendant is innocent. To me, there's just so much lack of evidence and extra information, errors in the trial. And like, that's what they said, why they're reconsidering the murder conviction because of jury error.
Yeah. Rochelle Knights.
Yep. Strawberry
shortcake. And they're probably going to, in my opinion, get a new trial. That's just my opinion. I'm going to agree with Fancy that I think he's guilty, but because of that juror error, because she was allowed to be on the jury with her past with the girl, the boyfriend's ex-girlfriend stalking her when she was pregnant. It's just so
she
similar.
Lied on the jury questionnaire.
Yeah, she said that she didn't even think about it because it was nothing like the Peterson case, but it kind of was.
Right. And I've read Scott's habeas corpus appeal, which is like some 400 pages.
Yeah.
And there are other issues that happened on the jury besides just Rochelle Neese. There were some other jurors and other juror misconduct. And so the appeal that went through a couple weeks ago with the death penalty sentence was just his basic automatic appeal, not his actual habeas corpus appeal. So I think the murder conviction is still part of his regular appeal. So I don't even think that they're looking at his habeas yet. I'll be interested to see, if they do overturn the murder conviction, if the prosecution will go for a lesser like a not first degree murder for both, but more like second degree murder based on the knowing how much little evidence they have and how
All
much
circumstantial, right?
yeah, and how much more evidence and better defense attorney Scott's going to have with
Oh yeah.
um, in like my episode, I talked about how they didn't do a float test on Connor's lungs. Well, there's no going back to do that. Where 15 years passed,
Right.
but that evidence could have showed that Connor was alive, and they can't undo
But they
that.
still can do, I guess, like a fetal measurement to see exact. Because I think that the first man that testified said that Connor died around December 24th. Somebody else is saying no, it could have been up to January 3rd.
Yeah,
And that would absolutely, it's going to put a big dent in the case, I think.
Yeah. So like the issues like they base with Lacey's ultrasounds, estimated birth and size of birth, when they were born.
Right.
But the float test would have saw whether his lungs had opened. So that would have
that only happened. Okay, yeah. I'm just
yeah. So if it had been a coffin birth, like Lacey was dead and Connor was expelled from her body, his lungs wouldn't have inflated.
Got it. Okay.
So afterwards on Connor's body, if they had done a float test and his lungs were open, that means he breathed. He broke before he died.
I wonder why they didn't do that.
I know. That's one of the big issues I have, is there are just too many issues, Lacey's,
too many what ifs. Got it.
Yeah, way too many what ifs. And for it to be, without a shadow of a doubt, death penalty, there's no doubt in a case. There's just too much doubt for me. So my goal, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that one of the major reasons that, the media and the public played a large role in that, because
I talked about that.
When this was going on, I mean, it was just mass hysteria. Everybody were out for blood for Scott. Yes. I mean, he was like the most hated man. He was like Casey Anthony.
Yes, he was the male Casey Anthony of the time.
Yeah. And it was almost a given he was going to be convicted.
Well, and
to me,
I think half of my episode. So the first episode, we just kind of covered the basics, what the general public probably knows about the case. The second episode is me and then Christina and Tori are there. They ask some questions, but I go through the timeline and then what how the police investigation, had some issues, and how Amber was involved and really not involved, but made to be involved. And then the third episode is Fancy and her side. And then the fourth episode will be coming out soon. And that's our closer for the season. And that's where me and Fancy will come together with everybody and kind of share where we come from.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I have a question. What was Kirk's take on the case? What does he say?
So Kirk was very much, he said, he doesn't know a ton of like intro details about each, float test XYZ. So we talked generally about the issues of the trial and why Scott deserved a new case. And Kirk typically does not like to talk negative about other defense attorneys. But he was pretty critical of Garagos.
Yeah.
Which I was surprised that he said it. And he was critical of the jury selection. Critical of the kind of bunk science that has been discredited now with the dogs. And so Kirk doesn't know if, Scott is really innocent. He doesn't really have an opinion, but he does agree that Scott most likely did not deserve the death penalty and deserved at least a new case with better evidence.
Yeah, maybe a different defense attorney.
Oh, yeah. What I think was going to happen is that they're going to overturn the murder conviction. Then the prosecution, I think, is going to maybe go for second-degree murder because they don't know how Lacey died.
Right.
And so I think they'll go for second-degree murder, which I think in California is 10 to 15 or 15 to 20.
So that'd be time if they did that. That's time served. Yep.
And that's my goal. It's my hope. And because my whole thing has been, I think he's innocent. But in my argument, it wasn't necessarily to convince everybody else that he is innocent, but that there's not enough evidence for him to get the death penalty and for them to open their minds that he might not be guilty.
And also think about this. You're more neutral because, as you said, you were younger when the case was out and in the media and everybody was on him. You didn't see all of that. So you're looking at it through different eyes.
Now, I was 10 in
Oh, you're a
2004.
baby.
Yeah, so pretty much all of like the big trials of the early 2000s, I was not,
Right.
paying attention to. Casey Anthony, I think, was happening when I was in middle school, so at least my ears perked up a bit.
Right.
But so that's exciting, and I'm waiting for Christina to get back to me. Christina is here because she had sent some communication to Scott and got some communication back, and I'm waiting for her to tell me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Whether it was his words, and then if she needs to mail it to me because I want it. And I would like to communicate with him.
He does know that. He does know that his death penalty was overturned.
Oh yeah, he definitely knows that.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm sure his team made him aware that they're considering the murder conviction.
Yeah.
And what's so sad in this is that it's everybody really was on his side until it came out about Amber. And like even the Roaches were on Scott's side until it came out about Amber.
And you know what? That's what kind of turned me though, because of what she said that he said to her. Something like, "My wife died last Christmas."
Yeah. Okay. So you're really going to want to listen to my episode because I go through all of those kind of conversations between Scott and Amber and the timing and how it wasn't that, Scott called Amber during the vigil and, he said that he was going to be in Paris. Well, he actually told her that when they first met, so that way he didn't have to talk to her when he was going to be with Lacey and the family.
Oh.
And so
he's definitely a cheater.
Yeah, I think scum. I think you cheated on your pregnant wife, but to me, cheating on your pregnant wife, not the same as killing your wife,
right?
And so I think you're really going to like the episode. If you like it, you should definitely tell Nancy to listen to it, and then I would love to talk to her about it.
I will actually. I will.
Because
I would love to. I'll keep an open mind myself too. Like I said, at this point I feel he's guilty just from what I've read, but I am not the most. I don't know a whole. I haven't really dug deeply into the case. I know the basics, So that would probably be helpful for me to listen to that and to hear that, for our future coverage.
I would love to work with you on that as this keeps coming up. I feel oftentimes Fancy often thinks too that I'm probably one of the only people that believes that he's innocent.
Oh, that's not true.
Well, right. I know that's not true.
Nancy, you can go to hell. Oh my goodness, you're the demon. Scott is innocent. It pours in, especially after people watch some documentary. There's a documentary out.
Yeah, it's the from I think it's HLN's.
Yeah,
where they took a better approach than just Scott is guilty. They were like, well, look at all of these different witnesses and who said that they saw Lacey.
Somebody robbed the house across the street, and around that time, people saw Lacey, or witnesses said they saw Lacey walking her dog. Is that correct?
Yes. So there are about, I think, 20 some witnesses who saw Lacey walking the dog after Scott was already verified to be at the warehouse.
Around 10 a.m., I believe. Yeah.
Between 10:45 and 11:30 is, I think, when the sightings are. But my time's totally maybe off. I say it,
but it was still after Scott had left.
Okay. Yeah, and so I go through like where Lacey was and where Scott was, to show how Scott was not in the vicinity anymore.
Wow.
Okay, so Scott did write back to Christina.
Oh, great.
So he says, Christina, thank you for your something note. And thank you for writing back with your mailing address. You are on something. There is in no way for death row inmates to respond via email. So I was frustrated. I could not say thanks until now. A guy in my institution really cannot, or situation really cannot correspond, but I couldn't go without letting you know that I am grateful for your kindness. Terribly sorry that COVID-19 has taken such a toll on your community, because Christine is in New York. I'm in love with that letter. I'm going to send him a letter. That's so nice that he said that.
I wonder when are they going to move him? Well, he may have.
I think that they're not going to move him out of San Quentin until they know more about his murder conviction.
Okay. So he's just going to be on death row until
they figure it out. Because if they move him to Gen Pop out of San Quentin, there's concerns about his safety. But with COVID, even bigger concern with moving him, especially since San Quentin did have, I don't think Scott had coronavirus, but obviously people there had.
Yeah.
And in terms of it'll be interesting if they overturn his murder conviction in between his new trial and when that is overturned, if they'll let him home.
That's what I was just wondering. Sometimes they do that. I know that happened I can't remember. It was another big case where that happened. I guess it just depends on a judge and if they feel he'd be a flight risk or not.
Right. I don't think he would be at this point. I mean, he's been a model prisoner, they said. And he's, it's a violent offense, but it would be overturned, but it was a circumstantial event from 15 years ago. So I think they would probably release him to his parents.
Well, so let's say it does get overturned, then I would probably think the prosecution would immediately file new charges.
Probably. I'm sure they're working on what they're going to have to charge him with.
Right. And then they'll probably try to arrest him on that.
Right away.
I wonder if he'd have to do the whole bond thing or no bond or how that works.
It's going to be interesting. I'm excited for this because when I was talking with Kirk, we had said that for them to even go through his habeas, it was going to be several more years. And obviously, Scott's been in jail since 2004.
Right.
And it's, I don't think he's a flight risk. Like I said, I don't think he did it. I think what they'll do is they'll probably just rearrest him as he walks out of San Quentin.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then they'll move him into, either a regular holding or because it'll have to be in the community jail because he won't be able to go to like a federal or state penitentiary yet without the conviction. So he'll just be in regular jail. And I'm wondering if the prosecution will take a deal, maybe an Alford plea. If they, with based on the habeas, they don't have a lot to go on besides Amber, and obviously Amber did not work well enough for them. And with Scott's information, I don't think it will work well enough to convict him again. So I think they'll either charge him with second degree, and then he'll get time served. Or they'll do a plea deal. I'm thinking more an Alford plea.
That would be interesting if they did that. Those are so rare.
Yes.
It reminds me of the West Memphis 3.
I was just going to say West Memphis 3.
Yeah. And those guys were
not guilty.
Oh, they are not guilty. My goodness.
I think Damien Echols is very cute.
Oh, actually, he is kind of cute now.
Yeah. Back then, chubby. I felt so bad because he lost contact with his son, and
yeah. Did you read his book?
Oh, I have all of his books. I've got the one that he wrote. I've got the one that he and his wife wrote.
Right.
And then I've got his more like Wiccan books just because he wrote them.
Yeah, I have his first one. I didn't get his others yet, but if you recommend them, I will if they're worth it.
Yeah, they're so in, and I also have the book from not
Jason?
Miss
Jason?
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah,
Miss
I
did write a book.
I like Damien's a bit better. It was more in depth than just he's a good writer.
Right, he's a good writer, he's a good artist in general. I think he has a lot of introspection on what happened.
Yeah.
Like Jason does too, obviously, but I think Damien was the one who got the death penalty. And,
Yes.
um, but yeah, I love um those three. I love Damien Eccles. He did not do it. Who do you think did it? Just
I was
curious.
actually getting ready to ask I was getting ready to discuss it. I think, and this is my own personal opinion, this is not anything I'm reporting. It's just my personal opinion. I think Terry Hobbs did it.
Yes,
I
that's what I was gonna
do.
say.
Especially when didn't they find,
Yeah, hair in
yes,
the
yeah,
basement of and on the knife there was like hair of not his kid, but or it's not even his kid, it's a step kid,
step kid,
but the
yeah.
other one of the other boys.
Yes. And
I
then the bite marks, and then like shortly after, he got all his teeth pulled. I
right, and
mean,
he refused to take polygraphs.
right.
Originally, and this happened the year I was born, so this is me. I was learning about these cases as the Alford plea and things were happening.
That's awesome. You know about these. That's great.
Well, like, so my dad had me when he was in high school. So like I was
Yeah.
born in 94. My dad was 16, so he was the same age as the West Memphis Three.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, and so, but like, I don't think I asked him, and he's like, because he's a paralegal and he didn't really know about this case. I'm like, well, it's fascinating. Um,
It is. My goodness. I was hooked. I've
yes,
seen
it's
every single documentary available.
yes.
I even watched the movie with
Newest the movie
Reese
one.
Witherspoon.
Oh, it's really good. I wanted it to be more, but it was really good. She
Yeah,
does a
I thought it was
great
pretty
job
good.
of playing his mom.
Yeah, she carried that well. Like when she was on the street crying
Yeah.
and shaking, it was just like right on. She's a wonderful actress.
Well, when I watched like the first of the three documentaries, I was sure that it was the not Hobbs, but the other stepdad.
Byers,
Yes,
John Mark Byers. Yeah,
yeah, I was sure. He was just so weird. But then by the third one, I'm like, oh God, he didn't do it.
yeah. He's just a
And then,
character.
yeah,
He played it up for the cameras a lot.
yeah, and I think at the end of the third one, he was really, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, remorseful because of his
how he acted.
yeah.
Um,
He died recently.
oh, that's
Car
sad.
crash of all things. A single
Oh,
person car crash.
that's so sad. But I think that's, what was it? His wife committed suicide, or was it Terry Hobbs' wife?
It was no, it was his wife.
It was
Yeah.
Byers.
She overdosed.
Yeah, that was another reason I was like, did he do it?
Yeah.
Why did she kill herself because of it?
I think
Yeah,
it was her son.
agreed.
She was just so depressed.
Yeah,
She
agreed.
never got over it, and she couldn't get over it when her little
I
boy
don't
died.
think anybody really could. I mean,
Yeah.
especially the way they were killed.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
so barbaric. And I was so shocked when the documentary in like the first 5 minutes is like,
You
here
see
are
their
bodies.
bodies. Yes. I was
Usually
like,
we don't
whoa.
get to see them.
Yeah, that was, oh my goodness. I mean, I'm not going to say that actually it made it more real for people.
Yes, it did.
So.
It's one of those things where it's like necessary evil. It's
Yes,
necessary
exactly.
to see the horrifying things to be able to understand.
Yes.
Like, I wish there are other cases where I wish we could see the crime scene photos.
Mm-hmm. As bad as it sounds, I absolutely agree with you.
As a medical person, I wanted to be able to see Connor's body.
Yeah, and I think they just showed like an X-ray of it. Was it?
It was a drawn version of what, like a sketch with the bag and the tape thing to show how that looked. But like there's one image of Lacey's torso. You can see that.
Yeah, but that's not really
right. Like, it's not that helpful. And in relation to Scott Peterson, like, I want to see, did that baby look like it had lived? What did that bag actually look like? And like with Kaylee Anthony, was that really her skull, or was that just a for in the Casey Anthony case?
I think that was her skull. I'm trying to remember. That's been a while back. I think that actually was her skull. I could actually look that up really fast because it's been so long. I think that that they take into account family members, and if these photos went public, what would family
Well,
members
right.
think?
So right. And I'm sure, especially with Connor, being a
Yeah,
baby, that emotions, especially back then, I think with, it would have had to been published in, the media, in a newspaper, on
right.
TV, versus now where, they can add it to a case file and really nobody would see it unless they went looking for it.
Okay, it looks like it was. You know what? I can't tell. I don't know if that's her skull or not. That's a good question. It looks
uh,
fake and then it looks real. I can't.
right.
I don't know. I can't even answer that.
Well, and it didn't have all the information. Like, we know that there was, hair somewhere on
Yeah,
her skull, and obviously that's not in the photo.
right.
Um, and it's just, I know there's certain information that shouldn't come out, but there are some that, at least for, professionals, are helpful, outside professionals, helpful to
Yeah.
be able to analyze things. So that way it's not
Yes.
just speculation, and it's not just, well, this is what I think happens, but I can't really say for sure because I haven't seen it. Well, you can see it and be like, well, with, my professional opinion when looking at it, I
Hmm.
wasn't personally involved in the case, but looking at the evidence, this is what I see.
Right.
Uh,
Exactly. And I wonder why some states allow it and some don't. See, I think it's for respect to the family. But then if you think about the John Bonet case, they have the most graphic crime scene photos. The marks around her neck,
yes.
and that's all out there for everyone to see. And then in other cases, there's nothing.
Right. And so I don't know if it's, a locational preference or if it really is family preference. When we talked with Joseph Scott Morgan, I think we were talking about Gannon,
Excuse me.
because it was, his autopsy wasn't out, but some information was.
Right.
Um, and we talked about how they really nobody should have leaked Kobe Bryant and his daughter's autopsy,
Yeah.
because that wasn't a crime. It was a horrifying accident. They should not have, and it's a horrifying
Agreed. Agreed.
autopsy. And I know that Kobe's wife suing because of those photos that were taken of the crash site.
Hmm.
Um,
And
right.
she
And
should.
yeah, she should, because it wasn't a crime. And it was her husband, several children,
Hmm. Oh,
and to be able to, I think, didn't she find out through the media?
yes.
Like,
And her daughter. Oh my goodness. I can't even.
horrifying. And so, there's that kind of information where it's not a crime.
Hmm.
And we talk about other cases. Well, Michael Jackson's autopsy was reported. It was a crime. His doctor killed
Hmm.
him.
Yep.
There's a difference. We don't get, so other celebrities who just died of old age. We don't get their autopsy. I'm
Right.
sure they had diabetes or health, heart, high cholesterol. It'd be in their autopsy report, but nope, that they're not publishing that because it's not salacious.
Exactly. That's what I was going to. Salacious was the exact word I was going to use. It's not salacious enough. Exactly.
Exactly. And so I think the benefit of showing at least some images of,
Hmm.
a crime scene is that it stops the speculation that it was worse.
Yeah.
'Cause
Absolutely.
if you don't see it and you don't really get any details, then holy crap, the media and the rumor mill and
Hmm.
conspiracy theories just go high drive, and yeah, there's no bringing it back, and then nobody believes anything anymore.
Yeah. Especially nowadays with the Facebook groups. Once the ball starts rolling, it becomes an avalanche in no time. And there's, so many people saying the same thing. It's just hard to pull back to where the case is.
Exactly.
I absolutely agree.
So sorry to sidetrack on those famous cases.
No, that's okay. I had fun talking about it.
The last case I want to talk about is one that has been super popular today, and that is Brittany Ralou.
Okay.
And so this is the 34-year-old mom who was charged with aggravated sexual assault in Wichita for allegedly making her 12-year-old son strip naked before raping him.
Oh, this one's a tough one. I mean, I'm gonna try to. It's probably going to be easier to write than talk about, but the key points here is that afterward, she reportedly said, "Well, you'll get in trouble because you accepted it."
Yeah.
As if she's saying, "Well, it was your choice. This is a little 12-year-old boy." No, it's never his choice ever. And his own mother saying that to him. What is wrong with this lady?
Well, I think she probably used the, well,
Excuse me.
male anatomy, things don't work. And it's like, he's a hormonal 12-year-old boy.
Yeah,
right?
he's a little 12-year-old. And did you see her mugshot? She just
Oh my
looks
gosh, she is ugly.
just
And I
mean
know I'm
looking.
not like the most gorgeous person out
No,
there.
no. You know what?
But right,
I'm not making fun
she's
of her. I'm
mean.
just saying she looks so mean, you know?
Right, she looks mean and she looks intimidating. The way she
Yeah.
looks is intimidating.
Like she is staring at her little boy like that. Oh, God, gross. I just feel so bad for him.
Well, right, and clearly she had him when she was young.
Yeah.
But so like the story is that the boy took a shower and they shared a room together, shared a
Yeah,
bed.
at age 12, and that's very odd to me.
Yep. So I'm guessing she had those thoughts more than just that one day. And then that she told him to undress, and she started undressing and then raped him.
Yeah, she questioned him about masturbation as she was undressing. I don't know why. This lady's nuts.
Probably asking him if things functioned.
Ooh.
Yeah. Sorry, medical there. Most likely wanting to see if
sure, yeah.
were
So
working.
then afterwards he went to sleep on the couch and he told her, this felt wrong. This doesn't feel right. And then that's when she warned him not to say anything.
Yeah.
And then eventually he did. He told
2 years later.
I think he was not living with her recently. He was living with a guardian or a caregiver, and he did confide in that caregiver what happened. And
good for him. And it's so hard for boys to report that.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter whether it's, an assault from a female or a male. Boys just have a harder time, especially at that age. I'm sure in school, I started dating my husband in 8th grade. We were
Oh,
wow. When we started dating.
Talk about first love.
Yeah, middle school. And so like I know how boys were around in middle school, and it's a lot of questioning each other's masculinity and hyping up activities that you may or may not have done to try to gain some boyhood promise. Like, I'm a man, I've done this. And so I'm sure he's probably gotten that from his peers, and to then have to be brave enough to say to someone who we trust, I was sexually assaulted by my mom. It's so brave.
It really is.
I hope he's getting the help he needs, and he's now out of any of that situation.
Well, someone posted on my Facebook page today that I think it was Nancy's Facebook page, I'm sorry, but that they do know the family and that the boy is being well cared for. He's in a good home now, and he is getting counseling, and everything's getting a lot better for him.
That's so good. We've talked several times about how sometimes, honestly, that a rape, sexual assault is worse than murder for the victims and for the families, because murder is at least done and you grieve. But with a rape, sexual assault, it's, a little piece of you dies.
And you have to live with it forever. Yeah.
And that's why so many victims go through different addictions and mental health problems because of it.
That's right.
So for this mom to do that to her own child,
I hope I hope that they throw her under the jail for this. There's no, excuse me. There is absolutely no excuse whatsoever. No. And I hope she doesn't take that insanity plea, because this happened 2 years ago. This wasn't recent. So she's been hiding this for 2 years. And the only reason she admitted to it is because the investigators outsmarted her. and she just had to, she knew
Well,
she was
right.
caught.
Right. And this is not, a lot of times, somebody could say, well, I was a woman can say she is the victim because, of, a man did this to me. He had the power and the control. This is not that case. You are the adult. You are the woman assaulting a boy.
Your own son at that.
Right.
My
Like,
goodness.
he didn't pin you to the ground. Like, this
Yeah.
was you. And it's so sick.
I'm
And
sorry.
so,
I'm just you know what? I just hope
no,
that, oh,
it's so horrifying. And that this is way, I think it's more rare, obviously, for a woman to their male son, but it's way too common for sexual assaults to occur within families.
right.
Um, it it's disgusting. I think I saw. So I DVR Steve Wilkos. Um,
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love him.
I love it. It makes me feel better about my life. Um, seeing
Oh,
some of these people. Uh, but like I just watched one the other day about how a young, 15-year-old girl reconnected with her father, but she didn't know if it was her father. And then the stepmom was like, I think something, fishy's going on here. I think that her father may be the father of her son, an incest baby.
mm-hmm.
Uh, and it came out that she is his daughter. Um, he is not the father of her child, but they did
Good.
have sexual contact.
Gross. Do you
And
remember
it's,
the names? Did Steve give their names?
I think so. I still have to do
That case sounds very familiar. I'll look it up later, but
it.
it sounds very familiar.
And there are way too many of them. The one thing I
All the
do
time.
like about Steve is that it allows for people to not only find out that, yeah, my neighbor or my best friend or my husband or my wife, abused, sexually assaulted, or killed somebody, but it does
Mm-hmm.
allow people who were wrongfully convicted or wrongfully accused to prove their innocence.
Right.
And it has helped them in court systems. There was a woman, I think it was the same episode, who she lost her newborn baby and her like 2-year old because the baby had like a broken femur,
Oh.
and she's like, I didn't do this, I don't know what happened. And her husband said he didn't do it, so they took the kids away for a year and a half. Well, then they went on the show, and it came out she didn't know anything, she didn't do it, the husband had done it. And so she left him, and within, like she said, like within like 2 weeks she was able to get her kids back full time.
Oh, thank goodness.
And so getting those people, reconnected with their kids and get them out of, a system that is unfortunately rife with more problems,
Mm-hmm.
is like the good side of Steve Wilkos. It's not all, horrifying, bad, scary, um,
Well, and
disgusting.
another thing, too, and it's actually a story we covered, is he actually helped get somebody arrested.
Yeah,
I
he does
can't
that a
remember
lot.
what the case was, but I remember it happened after his show aired. They arrested someone.
Yeah,
They
they do that a lot.
That's amazing to me that he does that.
Right, because a lot of times, they have to, law enforcement has to go on what evidence they have, and if people are willing to talk, then they're just kind of,
Yeah.
we don't
If you're
know.
coming up to go on the show, go right ahead.
I love the people who are like, this is fake. This is fake. No. And it's like, this isn't Jerry Springer.
Yeah, exactly.
You're on a TV show. You took a lie detector test.
Yeah, it's rigged. The lie detector's wrong. That's the main one.
No, my favorite is he's like, you liked the question that you didn't sexually molest your daughter, but you don't like the question where it says you beat her with a belt. Like, you can't have it both ways. You either like it or you don't. All or nothing. And guess what? You signed waivers, and they're like, "We're gonna sue you." And like,
Yeah, you signed waivers, buddy.
waivers. You're on a TV show.
Exactly. Oh,
But
I loved him when he was a bodyguard back when
yes,
Jerry Springer. Oh, I thought he was cute. Wait, not now, not now. I'm talking about way back
way
then.
back then.
Yeah.
See, I used to DVR all three, Maury, Jerry, and Steve. But as
Oh,
I've got,
Maury's awesome too.
I know. Well, like when it comes to the Maury episodes, I don't care about like the cheating ones. Like I'm here for my 15th DNA test.
Paternity only.
What?
I said paternity only. The paternity tests on
Yeah,
Maury.
like those, and that's majority of what it shows. But I can't stand them because it's just so. I know what's going to happen, and,
Yeah.
and it's either like, yeah, he is the father, or nope, this is the 15th man you've tested, and they're not the father. So I like watching the ones where it's like guys who abuse their girlfriends or wives, and
Okay.
they make
I've
them
never
like,
seen those.
oh, they're good, they're good. They take them and to like jail and make it same with like the girls, like teenagers, like my 12-year-old is bragging about having sex and doing drugs.
I have seen those. I take that back. Okay.
And so I
the
love
kids are up there saying, I can do what I want. It's my life. They're like 10 years old. Okay.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, I gave that guy a blowjob. I'll do it again.
What?
Like, and they're like, yeah, I'm 13 and I'm ready to have a baby and I'm collecting baby clothes. And yeah, I just want to
That's exactly how they sound.
yes,
Absolutely.
and I want to reach through the TV and smack their little faces.
Yeah.
Because they have no idea. And yeah, so then they make them like, okay, well, this is what jail looks like. This is what taking care of a baby is like.
Right.
They take them like the abusive husbands. They show them what their girlfriend or wife looks like in a casket.
Oh my goodness.
And at the end of it, they're all, I'm sorry.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks. I mean, well, not always. Sometimes it works.
A lot of times it does work. And so those are the ones that I like. I just like Maury, and then his wife. I just famous newscaster Connie Chung. Yeah,
there we go.
Love her.
Love her too.
And so just Jerry, I find entertaining once in a while. I like the ones where like, I'm really a drag queen. I'm really a man.
Yeah, I don't know. He's just too far out there for me. Just
right. And it's so you can tell that some of them are just so fake that it's just like, I want the real hard drama.
Come back. Like they'll be there on one episode about something, and then they'll come back a year later, something totally different, but it's the same people, but they're trying to act like they're different people.
Yes.
So Jerry doesn't really cut it for me. Yeah.
But yeah, so I DVR those just to make myself feel better about we all have our own problems, but like watching those kind of cases, like, wow, my life is way less drama.
Not that bad. Yeah. I hear you.
Some introspection.
Yeah.
But thanks so much for coming and chatting with me for so long about so many different cases, Leigh.
That time went by fast.
Time flies when you're having fun and having some good conversation.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, have me on again. I'd love to jump back in. I appreciate it.
I will send you the link to our podcast. Let me know what you think of episode, obviously all of them, but let me know what you think about my arguments in episode 2. I think you're going to like it.
Definitely.
I think you're going to like it. If you like it, let Nancy know.
I'll let Nancy know. I'm going to let her know anyway. So
yay. Let her know that we're her biggest fans, and anytime that she wants to talk to us, we will be more than grateful to just let her talk.
Okay, I will. And just a quick plug for Nancy. Her Injustice with Nancy Grace season 2 has started, and it is on Thursdays on Oxygen at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, if anybody is interested.
Oh, I'm sure they all will be.
Thank you, Colleen. We'll talk soon.
Yes, we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.